I'm sure that most of the people are going to be watching are very aware of what you do and who you are. But I kind of want to kind of go back to like starting. And when you
Okay.
started it, like I think you went to Vienna at 11 to study,
Yeah.
to study. And I want to kind of go from there to the switch from the virtuosic performer that is playing with the coolest people on planet Earth to the composer, and where that mind shift happens, or has it always been there? So I want to just start with Vienna and see where you were at 11, if you don't mind.
Oh, of course. Well, it's kind of been, my whole life has been full of surprises and of unexpected turns and twists. And me playing the violin as a kid was, not something that in my mind, that was not something that, oh, I want to become a concert violinist. It was just music was always kind of part of my life as a kid already, and it was just natural. I went with the violin, but my whole process of development wasn't the one, oh, she's gonna go to Vienna, she's going to study as a child prodigy, she's gonna become this and that. Nothing of that type. Even my family was like pretty convinced I'm not gonna make it when we go to Vienna for the exam. So
Oh,
nothing
wow.
was nothing was prepared.
Hmm.
Had no plan whatsoever. So I go there, I do the exam, and like I think five teachers came out of that and wanted to have me in their class, and it was a big surprise and shock for me and my family.
Hmm.
Life turned around, and eventually one of the teachers convinced my mom she should be coming and studying to Vienna because this is like a chance, in her life
Wow.
to to be a professional with this, not just, playing
Hmm.
or so
Did
yeah.
you have, I mean, if you get in, then you're a prodigy. Is it objectively true to say you were a prodigy?
I don't consider myself. I don't think I was a prodigy because I actually consider myself a late bloomer.
Okay.
I definitely had some type of. I think that despite everything that was going on in my life, I managed
Hmm.
to still play good the violin. So maybe with the right guidance and maybe with a different trajectory, I could have been a child prodigy.
Hmm.
But I think despite of me having like five different teachers in 4 years when I was a kid, not
Hmm.
having proper technique, anything like that, actually my me playing the violin the right way started in Vienna, where my teacher like brainwashed me and erased everything and started everything from zero.
Huh.
I'm super grateful for that because he put like the basics of the technique, of the right technique, into my playing. And it required a completely full refresh and new start.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I think that despite all of that, going to Vienna and still managing to convince like five teachers to take me in the class, I think that there was something there.
Yeah, like a spark of something. I
There was
wonder because
something.
I feel very strongly about like the way you play and the way you perform. And I'm curious as to when that musical maturation happened. Meaning there is a difference between being able to play and being able to connect to the music and through the music to the audience. Is there a moment where that started to happen? That's different conversation if you understand my question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it was kind of natural within me since I was a child. I
Okay.
remember my teacher definitely taught, teaching me everything about technique and always teaching me how to play properly. And he would never teach me about phrasing. He would always tell me, you know what, you're going to feel it. Just play the way you feel it, and that's going to be right. So I'm really grateful for that type of guidance because he encouraged my sense of musicality. He encouraged my intuition and my voice of expressing myself through my instrument and through music. Of course, with different genres, you would not play Mozart the way you would play Tchaikovsky, but it's kind of, he definitely told me, think about the phrase, sing it, let it come
Mm.
out of you.
Mm.
And he encouraged that a lot, and I'm super grateful because when it comes to phrasing, I don't really doubt myself. I think there are only so many ways to express yourself. And then you
Agree.
always have to think about what is the message that you want to send with music. Because you've got a melody line and it could have that message and it could have that message, and very much like spoken language, when you are talking to someone and you put a certain flow into your voice, or a certain tempo, or a certain melodic line in the way you tell a phrase. Or I think from poetry we can see that, like that reference. It tells so much more. And I try to look about that. I try to see, like, what do I really want to say with the music? And that guides me to my phrasing and to my expression.
Wow, man, you're making me think of some. I mean, first of all, it's switching from interpreter to storyteller, I think, and composer, right? Which is, it's something that's really been happening recently. I wanted to share something that happened when I started writing. I had a teacher in undergrad who he wasn't my composition teacher. He was a pianist, and he was awesome. He was like this amazing pianist, Stephen Crawford, and he was like the best pianist on campus. And I basically begged him to perform for a recording, an audio cassette. That's how long ago it was, to show my teacher this piano sonata I had written. And I basically went up to him and I said, "Hey, Steven, man, I'd love if you could actually play this thing I wrote. It would mean the world to me because you're such a great player. I'll give you a cigarette," because I had no money, and at the time I smoked. And he was like, "Okay, great." So he went and he played it, and I grabbed the recorder and I recorded it, and I was like so excited. And he played it, and he goes, "Carlos, that I'm a really good pianist, right?" And I go, "Yeah, dude, you're incredible." And he goes, "No, yeah, but the thing is, for a while I delved in composition and I started writing music, but I realized I had nothing to say. Do you have anything to say?" Yes. And it was the best. It was the best. And then we had a cigarette together, and I was feeling horrible for the rest of the week or month. But the truth is, he killed me with the right question. And I think that there's something about that when you get into this, even though you can't put it in words, you have something to say. And the idea of writing is to communicate that unworded feeling. And that stuck with me then, and I'm feeling it in the music. I mean, I've listened to the latest thing, Echoes, beautiful recording. And I mean, other than other questions, I wanted to ask you also, because not only through Perla, but with this Echoes, there's a collaborator you've met, Johannes, right? So could you tell me a little bit about that, how that was born, and how that shift went from interpreter to storyteller, I guess, if you will?
Well, where do I start? Right in the beginning, you asked me something. Maybe the composer was all the way there,
Yes.
is always
Yeah.
there. So this is like, I'm just going to go a little bit back to how I feel, because even though I was only a performer for such a long time, that thing of storytelling and of understanding what I'm playing and trying to make a sense of what all of these notes, written notes are, that was always something very important to me. So, even with the classical pieces, I would read about the composer, the time that he wrote the piece in, what he saw, what were the things that inspired him, her. And I try to put myself in their skin so I can tell their story, because you're a composer, you say something, so you are telling your story. And then I always needed like a storyline, even though it's not true. I made it for myself. I was
right.
like, and I see this as a conversation. What is the conversation about? All these kind of things. I mean, since I was a child. And another thing that I struggled with as a classical musician, like proper classical musician, was going a little bit away from the score, not following 100% entirely always everything that it's just written, where it was allowing me to do so. So there would be like, passages, virtuosos that I would like change and just add little things. I always needed to be like a little bit of a rebel, just a little bit of something. I don't know why. Maybe I need to put like my print, my stamp on that. Um, so I think that that urge of creation was in me all the time, and I just didn't know what that actually is. And a lot of the time you think like, well, I'll never be able to be a composer. I didn't study it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that we, coming from the educational point of view of classical music, if you didn't study it, you cannot do it. So that's, I mean,
If
in
you can't
some
read, you
way,
can't be a musician either. That's the
yeah,
same
e-
flawed thinking, I think.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think when it comes to music, as long as you have something to give and you manage to find the ways to do it, you definitely are a composer or a writer or singer-songwriter or an artist. And that's why I think myself, like I started composing, but I see myself more like, let's say, like a all-round artist, that I'm just trying to take what's inside of me out somehow. And it comes sometimes in form of performance, and sometimes it comes in form of composition or
And writing
improvisation.
itself. Didn't you also write the Andara project, the Andara 80?
Exactly. So that was like, and that was my start of a liberation, let's call it like that. It
Huh.
was, I mean, I worked with Hans Zimmer for a long time, so I already started being in touch with this world of, film
Connecting.
music, connecting, working with various composers, and getting to know, also doing session work. And that definitely opened my mind to a different kind of world, the film world, which makes so much sense to me, looking back to me as a child, always creating a story to the music. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everything just makes sense. And in the pandemic, all concerts canceled, nothing to do, zero activity. And I'm like, well, maybe this is the right time for me to explore different ways of music making. And I remember getting like a really small setup for home, a recording setup, and I started experimenting, and then I started writing, and I wrote this novel, which was like more or less a sci-fi thing that was, I think, self-therapeutic. I mean, Andara is pretty dark, yeah. It's
Yeah.
kind of on the dark side, so there was a lot of darkness in my life at that time, from any point of view, and I is probably not going to be my best work, but I didn't care at that time. It's so funny because I said, like, I
Yes.
need to put this out there. I don't
Yes.
care, am I going to be criticized for it or not? This is something that nobody would expect me to do. I just don't care. I need to put it
Great.
out there because I need to break that boundary, that I created for myself, or the world has created
Or
for
you've
me.
allowed the societal thing to create for you. It's a shell that you allow to take and hold you back, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, you allow it because it comes from all around.
Yes, it becomes normalized.
Yeah, and even if you, like, people around you and close to you tell you, "Oh, don't do that. That's going to ruin your career. People are going to not understand what is that. That's not, all of the things that you hear from people who are just scared, I think. Scared of the
Yes.
criticism, scared to be not taken serious maybe anymore, or all of these things. And I just, at that time, I really didn't care, so I did it. And that broke the ice. And
Mm,
at that time, I met my now husband, who is
mm.
Johannes Winkler, who is the
Oh,
collaborator on
amazing.
uh, on Perla and on Echoes and some other music that we did together. And he definitely opened up my mind as well to the electronic world, because he's
Yes.
specialized in synthesizers, and he's such a brilliant mind in sound creation, and bringing to me all of this new world of how much more we can do using electronic instruments, and understanding analog synthesizer, understanding the technicality behind it. And
And it's analog completely to electronic. It's a beautiful. opposites
Yes.
attract kind of situation, I
It
think.
was so interesting. The first time he showed me an analog synthesizer, he just showed me, and I'm like, oh, so this is bow pressure, so this is vibrato, so this is bow speed,
Yeah, yeah.
so this is articulation. Okay, so I said like, oh my God, this synthesizer is
Yeah.
basically a real instrument. It's not a machine, it lives,
Yes.
it changes
Mm.
sound by temperature. It's so sometimes you can never recreate the sound twice. It's
You
so
cannot.
brilliant that I fell in love with it. I became obsessed with it. So
And the
that's
first
how
thing you
it
did, and so the
started.
first project you did together uh, was it Andara? What was it?
No, and there I did all by myself.
Okay,
I
okay, okay.
absolutely, I said like, you know what? I don't want your help. I don't want anything. Just explain me the instrument. Can you imagine that? Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it's probably blasphemic for the people who've been working with synths for their whole life, but
That's the best thing because you are coming at it. There's a gorgeousness in being naive about it because it's an innocence and it's not filled with all these sort of ways in which you're supposed to do it. You just want to hear it. How do I just get that sound I have in my head? And it I think that's awesome.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think from all the seriousness that you have when you become a professional musician, it's always serious and you have to perform and deliver and
Mm,
be there
mm.
150%, no matter the state of your mind or your body or whatever. And then this could be just like, I'm just gonna do whatever I feel like and have
Yes.
fun with it. And I had so much fun bringing all of that out of me. And with Johannes, we collaborated on some of his music. When he would work on something and say,
Hmm.
"Well, do you want to add something to it, like Forest Network?" And he had like
Mm,
a few other songs from his album, and
mm.
then. Perla came along. The director knew him already, and we just started talking about it. And I think he realized, well, I think this movie needs a female presence
Mm.
musically as well,
Great.
where the storyline as well was I kind of connected as well with everything that the movie is about,
Mm.
and it just happened so organically, and then I was on board of this movie, and it was just such a fantastic experience too.
Well, I have to ask you a few questions about that, and that has to do with the ability to play versus what the story's asking for. And I think what your score is gorgeous in that it's very held back. All the potentials are there, but when you hear the music, there's so much use of voice. It reminds me a little bit, to a certain degree, of. I just watched Hamnet with Max Richter, which is I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it has this score, and the use of voices and the idea of the voice being a character. And this is sort of a general question. And this is the weird thing about this job. Because you can do all these things harmonically, orchestrationally, because it's in the other records, right? The very cinematic Echoes is super cinematic, it has everything. And but this movie's asking for one thing. And being able to temper that from I want to do all of this to it only needs this. How was that process to navigate, if I can ask?
That was really interesting. So we started already composing by script, and we started like gathering a lot of ideas and getting into what also the director wanted,
Mm,
and felt that it needed. So then we went to the first kind of cut screening, and we were there. And I remember watching it, I said, I think we have to tell the story from the main character's perspective. She
mm,
lives all of that. She's going through all of these things.
mm,
The story is definitely going through her.
mm,
And basically, she is the one telling the story through what's happening to her. We need to get into her head, and her head is all messed up. And it's like when things layer, and then sometimes it's silence, but then you've got like this little impulses. So I had this idea of let's bring in some very minimalistic percussion, like a heartbeat, and then female voices. And
Who did the voices? Who sang? Who
yeah,
sang?
I did the most of
Yes.
them.
Yes. Very cool. Very beautiful. Very, very cool.
This,
Yes.
all these kind
Yes.
of things. It was so much fun because it was the main character, she's broken
Mm.
and broken through her life and what she is experiencing. But there
Hmm.
is also like a lot of hope and strength into her story. And we wanted to transfer that into music. So kind of having something that feels like chopped, un, um, feels parted somehow,
Yeah.
all everywhere. That's how she feels like. So I was trying to get into character, and definitely like violin was not there, although you would think, oh, me as a violinist, I would
That's
That's
go.
exactly what I
exactly.
was getting at. It's an easy crutch to go to, but let's start with voice. Let's go somewhere else, and that's the beauty, isn't it?
Yeah, it was the voice that first thing came to my mind. And I did a string instrument, but it was the key harp.
Huh.
There is one track that I recorded on my mid-range key harp, which
Okay.
is a Swedish instrument and has this beautiful sound full of resonance, and it's kind of, so we did something
Is
with
it like the nickel
that.
harpa or something
It's
like
a
that?
nickel harp,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah,
okay, okay. Oh, wow. Beautiful. That's a
yeah.
great sounding
I
instrument.
I became obsessed with this instrument,
Uh-huh.
and I ordered one during the pandemic. It took 3 years for it to get.
Oh my God. Well, they built it from scratch, or they just wouldn't get there? They built it.
You have to build it from scratch because there is none that you can actually really buy. It's like I did so much research. Where can I buy a nickel harpa? Nowhere. You can only order, and it comes customized for you. You know what a big
Wow.
range you want, and all of that. And then I met a fantastic nickel harpa player, Eric Ridval. He's a lot into the scoring world. He's just fantastic, brilliant. Uh, Such a fun, amazing person, and also gave me some advice on the instrument. And then we met in Linz, and we were jamming on the nickel harp. It was just so cool. I think what I realized as well is, violin is my instrument, but I'm so interested in all the other sounds that other instruments produce. And I think the sound world is so wide range that violin is very specific, and
Mm.
it has a very specific tone to it and has a very specific mood that it brings to the table. I'm now exploring what I can do more out of this instrument, and I think Echoes was partially also a process for that. Like, how can I bring in some different sounds, some different vibes to the violin in a
Mm.
more modern but classically infused way, as a performer and also as a composer. So yeah.
And as a composer, there is a difference, I guess, when you're telling a story with picture than telling a story that's cinematic through just a recording. Because the freedom, you are the director of the soundscape. You kind of are creating this. But sometimes a story needs to be more transparent to the material, meaning the music that you make has to stick to fewer notes, more air, because the story or the dialogue or whatever is demanding it.
Do you
Exactly.
feel?
Absolutely.
How do you
Absolutely.
feel about nerves about like in making versus performing? And I'm just curious. I have friends who are actors and that are not ever, ever, ever nervous. And there are many, most are terrified before everything, right? They have the process. And between, is there a connection between getting on stage with Andrea Bocelli or the Zimmer tour? Maybe the first few times. I'm sure after you do it a certain amount of times, you get much more confident. But do you experience nerves? Is there a way to compare nerves to performing live versus making something from nothing?
Yeah, a long time ago, I used to suffer a lot from stage fright, and that was something that was really like a huge dark cloud above me. As a child, I really stressed out a lot about that. And with time, I learned how to transform those nerves and that kind of stage fright into excitement. So whenever I feel that, it's actually a positive thing. I'm trying to transform it into a positive thing. Like the nerves, they mean that I'm feeling something. That means that I care, and that that's also going to give me that extra kick on stage. It's going to give me that extra power that often you almost don't have. You know, you're on the road playing every day, traveling every day. You're tired most of the time. Energy is low. There's also not real time to recharge. So the stage recharges me. I learned how to grab that extra fuel from the audience, from their reactions, from it's beautiful. You're waiting at the stairs, you're waiting to get on stage, and you start to feel, you know, your heart beating faster. And I just try to breathe and go there and take it all in and enjoy it, because it's such a beautiful thing that we're doing, sharing our music with the world, giving the audience something special. You know, maybe that's that one concert that I go into in that year. You know, maybe that's something that they saved for such a long time, and you just want to give them your absolute best and go. I try to go a little bit away from me and be there for, you know, for
To
them.
let go.
And let go.
Wow.
That helps me a lot. When it comes to making music from scratch or doing something, I think it's a trial, fail, and error. I think you could just kind of have to do, and then be okay with the fact that some of the stuff that you're gonna do is gonna be crap.
Yes.
It's just gonna be, and it's a process, and you know, and maybe 5 minutes after you wrote something completely nonsense and useless, that one little idea is gonna come, and you're gonna say, I feel it now. This is the one that I really connect with.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I feel terrified every time I write a single thing. I don't think there's ever been, I'm never confident when I'm writing. And I mean that, and I don't mind sharing that. I tell my students all the time, it's not like you arrive at a point and you're like, okay, now of course, now coming with a British accent, I start speaking and writing, you know? There's no, that day never arrives. The weirdest thing is the most horrifying moment is sending that first version to somebody.
That's true. That is absolutely true. That's like,
email?
I'm sweating right now just talking about it.
It doesn't go away. I think it's funny, and it's a very real experience, and it's actually my fuel. My fuel is the fact that I don't know if I can ever achieve this, and I have to show up. I have to show up and deliver this thing that will get rejected 80% of the time. Like it's
the thing.
Yes. But it's not like I've learned this. I'm still telling myself, even telling this to you, I'm going, you know, the process never goes away. When you press send on that email and then just the waiting, and then they call, and then you have to talk through it, and you're like, but are they on board with it? Are we connecting on that thing we can't talk about? You can talk beautifully, but if you'd send something they don't get or they don't connect with, it makes no difference. And so the beauty is when you connect, and that's the beautiful part of the job. For me, I feel confident when I'm 80 or 90% of it done. When I feel like we're about to go record it, or we're getting to the dub date. The dub date's in 2 weeks. They can't replace me. It's too late. And the way I say it is like, when the name is, if you get to the credits, man, we got to get to the credits. You know, when the name's just rolling up there, great. It's a great moment, and it feels And I don't know if you have this feeling, but the idea is more the beautiful part is that you start a new relationship with someone, a new collaborator, and it feels like honeymoon. You're so excited about getting this job, getting this opportunity, and here's a story, and they're going to send picture, and then they connect you with pics or whatever it is, Aspera, and they can start sending you see dailies, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. Oh crap, I gotta write something. I gotta make something, and it doesn't go away. My point is that I don't think I'd love to be and share with you. Yes, I've been lucky to work. I feel that, and I feel very lucky to have the opportunities. But I'm very aware that I haven't gotten to a point. I don't know if I ever will, and I'm okay with that now. That's the difference, I guess, is that I know that this is a process, and the process is the thing. There's nothing more to it than just see what happens today. See if it gets through. Okay, good. We look back. Oh, there's something going on. It's kind of exciting. But there is no I can't. I've never been able to pull that one off. I wish, but it's not. I don't think it's in my makeup. And I think it's what makes us do what we do and how we do it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that aspect of working in the film industry is really tough.
Yes.
And I think it gets to a lot of people. It gets them, it's hurtful in a way because you put your heart out there and you're trying to do the absolute best that you can, and it's almost like you're giving birth to this music, and then oh no, cut.
Yes.
It's dead.
Yeah.
And it's just that hurts so bad, especially in the beginning. I don't know if it gets better with time. You just maybe grow like a tougher skin where you're like, okay, and then maybe like I'm gonna use it somewhere else, or make an album with all the undelivered babies.
Here's the thing. I think you have to. I feel it's funny you're saying that because I really connect to this part. I think it never becomes how you process the rejection is what makes you better. It's always going to happen, and it's going to feel and hurt just as much when they reject. I've gone to version 40 something of a cue. I know there's other composers who have longer, bigger stories of this, but getting to version 40 is a thing. It's a thing that messes with your mind when you're like, how many more times do we have to go to this well and see? Because you do feel like you can run dry. You're like, I don't have any more ideas. So the fact is, it's almost like that is, I guess I would compare it, if I could, to a certain degree of getting up on stage and performing. When you're on your 17th show of the same tour, of the same program, it feels very different than that first time, right? But the difference is, it's going to go badly all 17 times.
No, that's
the writing wise, and you have to just show up. It's nothing is precious, and that's the thing. I'm starting to go like the coffee's kicking in. Sorry, but it's true. Nothing ever. It never stops feeling the same way, and it's just about how to figure out how to show up with a new idea and being okay with it. And like you said, these ideas don't die. They die for this project, but they always live. I've had other experiences where one idea kind of came from something that was rejected elsewhere. And all of a sudden it finds a home in this new thing. And you're like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And other times it doesn't. But it is a very different thinking than, and this is like you said it, when people are starting and they get their first rejections, it's very easy to stop. Because you're like, why should I do this? Everyone goes through this. This happens to everyone. And ideally normalizing that hopefully gives some hope for people to say, rejection is just part of it. Version 7, sure.
Do you think that, when you work with somebody and you get to version 40 or 60 or 170, is it because you might not be a good match from the beginning, or is this something that, because I wonder why that's the case sometimes, it's like maybe we're not a good match from the beginning, or the person doesn't really know what they want and just like keep searching and searching, and maybe the idea was there all the way along, but because of some
I wouldn't count on the trope. I wouldn't count on the trope that you do version 40 and then they go with version 1, which you always hear. Oh, they end up using the first version. I've never met a director that doesn't remember the first version. They remember all 39. And I think if they're doing it is because they truly believe. There's just two answers to this question. There are directors that are potentially, from what I've experienced so far, like there are people who not necessarily don't know what is actually going to work to picture. And that's something that happens. This is something that happens, and that's when you can recognize that without your ego being in the way. That's the hard part, because your ego is the first one to say they don't understand it. Yeah, they've been on the story way longer than you have. So stop, right? Number one. Number two, it's like, if that's the case, then you have to figure out how that's going to work out. Is there an exit strategy for you? Or do you know what I mean? That you can actually understand that this is not a fit, and you can have that conversation. You can, as long as I think you're transparent about that, but making sure that it's not about your ego taking over, I think you're going to be mostly fine. I think the idea is if they're giving you these chances is because they're advocating and believe you can deliver the thing they need. And that's the hardest part, because you think your first version is your best. That's not true. It's not been for me. I've gotten pushed when I thought I should become an accountant. Accounting would be good. It's a safe thing. It's not that long a program. I'm decent with numbers. Let's go. But that's not what happens. What happens is you get pushed so far, and you're always rethinking your life choices. And then this one idea gets through. And like you said, it's this one little bit. It's that one little bit. And when I've noticed with the Queen's Gambit thing, it was like 2 or 3 months I got a call from Scott Frank saying, you're scoring the wrong story. Like, he literally told me that. What do you do with that? And then we were having a review, and there was the ending of one thing that he liked. Everything else wasn't working. And that little bit, I was like, okay, I think, and that literally led to being able to take off. And that is why we do this. Why I do it is to get to that moment. I just don't want to have to go through the crap, but it is part of it. Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes it's like one thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's one thing. And that defines an entire score.
It should. And it can. And there's different kinds of storytelling, but you're correct. And how when you land on that, and when they say yes, there is that feeling, that resonance. And you're like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And it's like you're 4 again or 11 and on your way to, you know what I mean, to Vienna. I don't know, but that feeling, that's the beauty about this, I think, is that we don't grow up. Nobody does. We just get all I get all wrinkled and whatever. But the kid in me is never going to go away. And I think getting to do this and jump into another story and a new thing, and, I don't know if I can do this. You've worked with the greatest of all time. How have you've had opportunity, hopefully, to take some of this in, his process, if I may ask, if I may be bold and ask.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was very inspiring to watch him work and to watch him approach, the storytelling. He's very much about the storytelling and understanding, and I think one of the great things that he said was, and I wrote that phrase down because we were in catering somewhere on tour and they were talking, and it was so good that I was like,
I love that. Yeah.
I've got it in one of my notes.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to find out what they think they failed at. And I'm going to try to make them not feel that way anymore through the music.
Dude. Oh.
That was such a, almost like, when the clouds go away and the sun shines and you've got a choir saying, oh.
Ah, yes.
It's a North Star. That's a North Star right there.
And that was so brilliant, that approach, think just the phrase meant so much. And many things like that that I heard from him, but basically his approach of listening and understanding the human aspect behind the director. Because one thing is the movie, one thing is their own fears of, is it gonna be good? Is it gonna be, am I gonna be able to create that what I want? And the other thing is the motivation behind it, the motivation behind creating that specific movie, that specific story. You put so much into it. You work years on something like that. And he always tries to understand that drive and where does it come from, what does it mean to them. It's trying very much to connect on a human aspect with them. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And what he's so great about is he's got that. First of all, he's got an incredible luggage of knowledge. Like, he listens to everything all the time, everything, all genres of music, non-stop. So he would know probably every band in the world, every little alternative rock, folk, Nordic somewhere from Sweden that only plays for like 50 people and has like 500 views on YouTube. He would probably know that, He spent a lot of time on YouTube just listening to people and exploring what else they do. It has just such a huge luggage of listening to music. And he always says it's like not mine. It's just an accumulation of all these things that I'm listening to all the time. But then curating all of this luggage of music into a specific style or voice or just to understand what fits where.
Yes.
I guess you have to listen to so much to know you're curating your instinct. It's not like it's forever. It's you're born with that. I think
that's a great sentence. You're curating your instinct. That is, you just said it. That's freaking awesome. I think that's one of the great things he has, because I went back and I watched some movies from one of his earlier films. It's the where it comes in is what's great. It's the choice of when music, which obviously can be directors, but it's also that. And I like the way that the human aspect, because especially when starting out, you're like, oh, the director, the almighty director. That almighty director is dealing with, the producers, the almighty producers and the studio. They have their own hierarchy, right? That they're So it's having that psychology of, we're in this together. Let's get this story to work for you and collaborate to kind of help tell the story, because so you're one less thing to worry about. I've always felt like that's kind of an important psychology when you speak of psychology, to come in as a colleague to tell the story, as opposed to please approve. Yeah. Because when he hangs up with you, he's got to deal with 100 other people that are please approve the VFX, please approve the sound, please, and then he's got to be please approve all these choices I've made to the people that pay. And it's just, you said it and it made me think of that, because the psychology is, and obviously he's a master at it, and aside from the writing, I think there's the other aspect. You mentioned it earlier, psychology. It's a huge part of this.
I think so too, yeah. I mean, it's so obvious. As soon as you're dealing with people, you are dealing with a type of communication and a type of form of understanding and understanding each other and trying to support each other on this way. I think everybody has their own struggles. You have your struggles, and the director has their own, and the producers have their struggles, and the studio has the struggles. So when you think about that, then I think the focus shifts somewhere else.
Yes. Yeah.
And the goal is one, everybody wants to create a great movie. Everybody wants to create the best, the award-winning and all of that. So, I think that is something that you learn your whole life, and you learn through experience. And but something that you said was so important, and I think that that's something that all of us musicians have to learn how to deal with, is putting the ego aside, putting like the ego thing completely away, and not thinking about, this is mine and I want to do this. And, it would be so great to have all of this music in the movie so that.
Yeah, but allowing yourself to be vulnerable is with that partner. I think that's what makes the best collaborator. When you just stop getting rid of the front, getting rid of the illusion that one has to kind of portray in a way. But when you have the actual collaboration, it's real time. Because anything else that is bullshit will be immediately sussed out. As soon as at the end of the day, most creatives are very hypersensitive people. We're hypersensitive. We usually have more than one conversation at the same time. Not just the words, but there's body language, there's a thing, there's an energy, and whether you connect or not, that's the real thing. And you're correct. I really agree that there are people you're going to connect with much more, and other people you're going to be more professional with. But at the same time, the work has to be vulnerable. The work, you have to be, I think, open to that process of let's make another baby, let's make 7.
Yeah.
And feel like. Here's one last thing I'll say. I think this is almost going long, but I'm kind of really excited about it because it's making me think of this. But you have to be open to the fact that if they're rejecting you, and if they rejected you 7 times, you're like, what would be great? Getting on another project, working with someone else, doing something new. And if I get another project, it'll be great. Why do you tell yourself that lie? Why don't you reframe this that, you know what? This 8th version is going to be the new project I got a call from my agent for. This new opportunity. It's almost like you get to start over with the same people every time. Why not bring that beautiful energy, that, I got the job energy, into version 8? Why does it have to be, there's something about that. And it doesn't mean I've mastered any of this. It's something that it's a constant narrative in my head in order to process the insanity that is revision, which is what we do a lot of, And I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it at the end of the day because it keeps you engaged, it keeps you young, it keeps you vulnerable. And I think ultimately that is the best part of being alive, is having those moments when you watch a movie, when you cry like crazy, when you're moved by the illusion that's been created by these actors, sets, music, all in tandem to make you transcend and go, what is this life thing? Anyway, so I don't know.
I absolutely connect with what you say, and it's been proven. Let's say it's a proven concept in life that you're always one step away from success. Your fail is only fail as long as you let it end like that. You can
Fair.
always
Fair.
think of like the next step. That's going to be what gets me to the result that I want to achieve. And it's good to have goals. It's good to have something to look up to. I want to achieve that, and I'm going to work towards that and have a positive attitude and not let the dark thoughts take over.
They can.
It's a huge challenge, and it's I can say also from the part of a performer, it can really also get like that. Maybe you had a bad day and then you start doubting yourself in everything that you do, and it's like one note was not right, like I'm bad, I'm terrible, and so it's just, we're, like you said, we're hypersensitive, and it's everything that's happening to us is like almost like affects us in such a grand way every single time. But we also have to remember that we have the ability to also regenerate maybe faster because of our emotional capability.
Wow.
So I think that it goes both ways, and if we learn how to steer that wheel, then hopefully we're on the right track for a long time to have a long and beautiful activity as we.
Thanks for sharing that. That's actually good to hear. I didn't even think of it that way, but thank you. That's good for my holidays right now. And but so I can ask you, in order, I guess, to close, in a sense, is just like Echoes came out this year. Perla now is a film. Are you on other projects you can or can't talk about? Where are you at? What are you looking towards for 26?
26, I'm going to release another album as a performer. Something that I wanted to do for a long time, but being in the film world, I want to create an album, a cinematic album with pieces that I love playing in my own arrangements. So everything rearranged from kind of my perspective and the themes, with the little things added there and there that I feel I love and I can give in a beautiful way to the audience. And at the same time, I'm working on the next original album. And I can say that's, right now I feel like I'm starting to define slowly a little bit more of who I am or who I want to be as a composer, like what the style is that I feel connects with me in terms of that's me. That's something that's now I can tell it comes again and again and again in a different way, right?
I love
They're like
that.
little elements, little motives, little styling things that I was not even aware of, but it's like when I start just creating music, okay. So I'm discovering myself, I think, right now. I'm in a process of trying to also understand where is the composing direction going to. I'm very excited because I really love the process. And there is another movie that it's in the making. So I'm so blessed, and
Yes. Yes. Good luck with that. That's the thing. It's beautiful to hear that. And I'm excited for what you're doing and the transformation we're, as an audience, getting to watch you go through, right? And it's the problem is that you have to go through it in front of everyone.
I'm used to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like it comes with the territory, and it's a beautiful thing. But I was really moved by by what I heard on Echoes, as well as Perla and the choices, and I was like, that was like my departure point. It was like she can do anything, but this score is asking for something, and that's the beauty of this, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's what's attracting me a lot towards the film music world, because scoring world is so much about telling that story regardless of who you are or have been. And it's
Exactly.
almost like you're rediscovering another alter ego of yourself, like you're
Yes.
doubling yourself in different versions. There's still something of you in there, but it's like, it's a blonde Rusanda.
That's
It's a
awesome.
very different one, or it's a child.
It's a bald Carlos. I don't know. I don't know.
Isn't
I
it?
mean,
That's funny.
I
That's
don't have
so
many. I
funny.
don't have many choices, but I do think that stylistically, there are people, and maybe this is the last thought, and tell me what you think. But I do think people that have a voice and they do the one thing and they sound that way, and then there's most of us who kind of have different styles and are more towards a craft. And I did go through many years where I thought I had to have a voice or a thing, and I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think just getting good at the story part, getting good at
Yeah.
understanding when to come in and being elegant about your ins and outs
Yeah.
musically, about your choices. I think that is the voice. That in a sense, instead of, and so it's okay. I've told myself out loud, but I mean it. It's okay that I don't sound a certain particular way like some people
Exactly
do.
the same.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I can absolutely relate to that. I think like for me, my scoring activity, I even want it to be that way. I would love to have big contrasts in the work, because I also feel like that's how you're growing as an
yes.
artist. It's not
Yes.
trying to replicate something that you've done before or trying to stick to your style or anything. I mean, but there are amazing composers out there who you listen to and you know right away. I mean, how many notes do you need to know that that's John Williams? How
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is
Done.
like two
Done.
notes,
Two.
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I was like, that's Johnny Williams, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's because he's got a specific, but also the people that he's worked with, you know, the directors that he worked with, that there are teams, so the style matches.
Yes.
So that's why maybe that also defined all the music that he's been writing, because his compositions are very different. Like when you listen to the violin concerto, the latest compositions, it's very contemporary, and it's you know, not much of the scoring John Williams that
Right.
we know, which is beautiful. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
we, you know, get to know his work for different ways. And
We've been
too
too
lucky.
lucky. We've been so blessed because other folks that I love, like Jerry Goldsmith, you know, their lives were technically cut short, even though I lived a long life. But some of those, or obviously say nothing of Horner's music, you know, who was just like fantabulous about every choice he made. I just was definitely gifted. But then there's other composers like Thomas Newman, who you hear a few notes and you just know the sound of Thomas Newman, right? And then there's, and so I think that's in itself the thing. At least I tell myself to feel better. But it's like I figure just be honest to the story, true to the story, and the story will demand its own voice. And don't let your own thing get in the way of it. And I think that leads to you growing, as you said.
yeah,
Do you know?
yeah. And I think
So-
still we've got like the possibility nowadays to just create the music that we want to without working on a project, like, you know, being a releasing
you.
artist.
Yes.
You know, and that's a completely different story, and that can have, like, you know, a trajectory or a certain style that it goes to or be defined by, but yeah, the beauty about working on a score is going outside of your measurements and of your, you know,
Your preconceived concept of it.
Because it's someone else's story.
It's someone else's story. And you got to just get lucky to jump in and ride along and hopefully help it if you're lucky. So, but anyways, dude, this was great. This is a great conversation. Thank you, Rusanda.
absolute- Thank you, Carlos.
And for
It's been such a
anybody
pleasure.
who's
Who's listening to this far, watching Echoes, check out Echoes and watch Perla if you can. I think it's on Mubi if you get a chance to watch it, and listen to the score and obviously all the stuff, and catch you on, I don't know, you just don't stop. So bless you. Congratulations, seriously, it's amazing, and it's a really nice thrill to get to talk to you, other than work with you so many years ago.
Yeah, it was, you know, such a pleasure also talking to you and sharing all these stories together today. And whoever is watching, you know, I hope that you got a little insight on what is to be a crazy musician / composer
/ alive.
So-
alive.
Truly. Thank you. I hope you have an amazing 2026 for real. To be continued.
You too, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. I'll see you next year. Take care. Bye.